While the kingdoms of the Eastland celebrated in Tyre, one throne remained absent. King Malu of Mendev did not attend the wedding. His absence was noticed by many. Some viewed it as an insult. Others believed the affairs of Mendev demanded his attention. The truth was more complicated than either explanation. Though he had declined the invitation, he had not ignored it. A delegation of respected nobles, accompanied by distinguished representatives from both Mendev and Syro, had been sent in his place, bearing gifts, messages of goodwill, and blessings for the union of Prince Rondel and Lady Gabriella. The representatives carried Mendev's honor to Tyre, but the king himself remained behind. For the first time in many years, Malu preferred solitude. The great halls of his palace felt different now, quieter, colder. Not because Queen Sharon was gone, but because of how she had gone. Many expected the king to mourn deeply after her execution. After all, she had once been his queen, his companion, and the woman who had shared his throne. Yet grief never came to him in the way people expected. Whenever he thought of Sharon, he did not remember her laughter first. He remembered the poison. Whenever he remembered her face, he saw not the woman he married, but the woman who had calmly planned his death. And what disturbed him most was not merely the attempt itself. It was her certainty. She had not acted in anger. She had not acted during a moment of madness. She had planned it carefully, patiently, deliberately. Even after being exposed, arrested, judged, and sentenced, she had never begged for mercy. She had never fallen to her knees asking forgiveness. She had never claimed she had been manipulated or misunderstood. To the very end, she remained stubborn in her belief that her path had been the correct one. That truth haunted him more than any execution, because it forced him to ask a question he could never fully answer. When had she stopped loving him? Or had she ever loved him at all? Many nights he sat alone with those thoughts, and each time he reached the same conclusion. She had wanted him dead, not removed, not weakened, dead, so she could take power for herself. The realization was bitter enough, yet another thought troubled him even more. General Philip. For years, Philip had been his most trusted man, a commander, an advisor, a friend, the very man whose loyalty had saved his life. And yet, Sharon's final words continued to echo in his mind. "I believe you, Philip." Simple words, meaningless words, or perhaps not. Malu had told himself repeatedly that they meant nothing. Philip himself had looked genuinely confused. The evidence had proven his loyalty beyond doubt. Without Philip, the poison would have succeeded. Yet the words remained, like a thorn buried beneath the skin, impossible to ignore, impossible to remove. At first, Malu dismissed the thought. Then he revisited it. Then he began examining every memory involving Philip and Sharon, every conversation, every glance, every interaction he could remember. Not because he believed Philip guilty, but because betrayal had changed him. Before Sharon's treachery, Malu trusted carefully. After it, he trusted almost no one. The king who had once judged people by years of loyalty now found himself searching for hidden motives behind every action. A servant arriving late with a message, a noble speaking too softly during council, a guard lingering too long outside a chamber. Nothing escaped his attention anymore. Nothing felt entirely innocent. And though he hated this transformation, he could not stop it. Because the person who nearly murdered him once shared his table, his throne, his bed. If Sharon could hide such intentions for so long, then who else could?
The question followed him everywhere. Even General Philip began noticing subtle changes. The king still trusted him publicly, still consulted him, still relied upon his advice. Yet there were moments now, small moments, moments where Malu's eyes lingered just a little longer than before, moments where questions were asked that once would never have been asked, moments where silence seemed heavier between them. Philip noticed, but he said nothing, because he understood something few others did. Betrayal leaves wounds that swords cannot create, and unlike cuts of flesh, wounds of trust often take far longer to heal. Far longer to heal. Far away in Tyre, music filled the air. Kings celebrated. Alliances strengthened. The future seemed bright. But in Mendev, another future was being born. Not one of celebration, one of caution, one of suspicion, one of a king who had survived death only to discover that surviving betrayal was far more difficult. And as the fires of the wedding burned brightly across the Eastland, King Malu sat alone within his palace, staring into a darkness that no victory had managed to erase. For he had defeated his enemies, but he no longer knew with certainty who his friends were.